The Buddha, His Life and Teaching. By Venerable Piyadassi Thera, 2. The Sinsapa Grove. The supremacy of the Four Noble Truths in the teaching of the Buddha is abundantly clear from the message of the Sinsapa Grove as from the message of the Deer Park. Once the Blessed One was living at Kosumbi, near Allahabad, in the Sinsapa Grove. Then, gathering a few Sinsapa leaves in his hand, the Blessed One addressed the monks. What do you think, monks, which is greater in quantity, the handful of Sinsapa leaves gathered by me or what is in the forest overhead? Not many, trifling, Venerable Sir, are the leaves in the handful gathered by the Blessed One, many are the leaves in the forest overhead. Even so, monks, many are those things I have fully realized but not declared to you, few are the things I have declared to you. And why, monks, have I not declared them? They, monks, are not useful, are not essential to the life of purity, they do not lead to disgust, to dispassion, to cessation, to tranquility, to full understanding, to full enlightenment, to nibbana. That is why, monks, they are not declared by me. And what is it, monks, that I have declared? This is suffering, this have I declared. This is the arising of suffering, this have I declared. This is the cessation of suffering, this have I declared. This is the path leading to the cessation of suffering, this have I declared. And why, monks, have I declared these truths? They are, indeed, useful, are essential to the life of purity, they lead to disgust, to dispassion, to cessation, to tranquility, to full understanding, to enlightenment, to nibbana. That is why, monks, they are declared by me. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to realize. This is suffering, this is the arising of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. And 2-4. The Buddha has emphatically said, one thing do I make known, suffering, and the cessation of suffering. And 25, duksam siva panapemi, dukkasa ca. To understand this unequivocal saying is to understand Buddhism, for the entire teaching of the Buddha is nothing else than the application of this one principle. What can be called the discovery of a Buddha is just these Four Noble Truths. This is the typical teaching of the Buddhas of all ages. The Peerless Physician. The Buddha is also known as the Peerless Physician, Visakho, the Supreme Surgeon, Salakato Anuttaro. He indeed, is an unrivaled healer. The Buddha's method of exposition of the Four Noble Truths is comparable to that of a physician. As a physician, he first diagnosed the illness, next he discovered the cause for the arising of the illness, then he considered its removal, and lastly applied the remedy. Suffering, dukkha, is the illness, craving, tanha, is the arising or the root cause of the illness, samudaya. Through the removal of craving, the illness is removed, and that is the cure, nirvana. The Noble Eightfold Path, magga, is the remedy. The Buddha's reply to a Brahmin who wished to know why the Master is called a Buddha clearly indicates that it was for no other reason than a perfect knowledge of the Four Noble Truths. Here is the Buddha's reply. I knew what should be known. What should be cultivated I have cultivated. What should be abandoned that have I let go. Hence, O Brahmin, I am Buddha. The Awakened One. And 26. With the proclamation of the Dhamma for the first time, with the setting in motion of the will of the Dhamma, and with the conversion of the 5 ascetics, the Deer Park at Isapatana became the birthplace of the Buddha's dispensation, sasana, and of his community of monks, sangha. And 27. The spread of the Dhamma. Thereafter the Buddha spent the Vassa and 28 at the Deer Park at Isapatana, sacred this day to over 600 million of the human race. During these 3 months of reigns 50 others headed by Yasa, a young man of wealth, joined the order. Now the Buddha had 60 disciples, all arahats who had realized the Dhamma and were fully competent to teach others. When the rainy season ended, the Master addressed his immediate disciples in these words. Released am I, monks, from all ties whether human or divine. You also are delivered from all fetters whether human or divine. Go now and wander for the welfare and happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the gain, welfare, and happiness of gods and men. Let not two of you proceed in the same direction. Proclaim the Dhamma that is excellent in the beginning, excellent in the middle, and excellent in the end, possessed of meaning and the letter and utterly perfect. Proclaim the life of purity, the holy life consummate and pure. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who will be lost through not hearing the Dhamma, there are beings who will understand the Dhamma. I also shall go to Uruvela, to Sananagama, to teach the Dhamma. N. 29. Thus did the Buddha commence his sublime mission, which lasted to the end of his life. With his disciples he walked the highways and byways of India, enfolding all within the aura of his boundless compassion and wisdom. Though the order of monks began its career with 60 bhikkhus, it expanded soon into thousands, and, as a result of the increasing number of monks, many monasteries came into being. In later times monastic Indian universities like Nalanda, Vikramasila, Jagadala, Vikramapuri, and Odantapuri became cultural centers which gradually influenced the whole of Asia and through it the mental life of humankind. After a successful ministry of 45 years the Buddha passed away at the age of 80 at the twin sala trees of the Malas at Kusinara, in modern Uttar Pradesh, about 120 miles northeast of Benares. N30. The Buddha's ministry. During his long ministry of 45 years the Buddha walked widely throughout the northern districts of India. But during the rains retreat, Vasa, he generally stayed in one place. Here follows a brief sketch of his retreats gathered from the texts. First year, Varanasi. After the first proclamation of the Dhamma on the full moon day of July, the Buddha spent the first Vasa at Isapatana, Varanasi. The second, third, and fourth years, Rajagaha, in the bamboo grove, Valuvana. It was during the third year that Sudatta, a householder of Savatthi known for his bounty as Anathapindika, the feeder of the forlorn, having heard that a Buddha had come into being, went in search of him, listened to him, and having gained confidence, Sada, in the teacher, the teaching, and the taught, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, attained the first stage of sainthood, Sotapatti. He was renowned as the chief supporter, Dayaka, of the Master. Anathapindika had built the famous Jetavana monastery at Savatthi, known today as Sahatmahat, and offered it to the Buddha and his disciples. The ruins of this monastery are still to be seen. Fifth year, Vasali. The Buddha kept retreat in the pinnacled hall, Kudagarasala. It was at this time that King Suddhodana fell ill. The Master visited him and preached the Dhamma, hearing which the king attained perfect sanctity, arahata, and after enjoying the bliss of emancipation for 7 days, passed away. The order of nuns was also founded during this time. Sixth year, Mankula Hill. Here the Buddha performed the twin wonder, Yamaka Patihariya. He did the same for the first time at Kapilavatthu to overcome the pride of the Sakyas, his relatives. Seventh year, Tavatimsa, the heaven of the 33. Here the Buddha preached the Abhidhamma or the higher doctrine to the deities, Devas, headed by his mother Mahamaya, who had passed away 7 days after the birth of Prince Siddhartha, and was reborn as a Deva in the Tavatimsa. Eighth year, Bisakala forest, near Sumarajari. It was here that Nakulapata and his wife, a genial couple, came to see the Buddha, told him about their very happy married life, and expressed the wish that they might continue to live together both here and hereafter. These two were placed by the Buddha as chiefs of those that win confidence. Ninth year, Kosumbi at the Gozita Monastery. 10th year, Paraliyaka forest. It was in the 10th year that, at Kosumbi, a dispute arose between two parties of monks owing to a trivial offense committed by a monk. As they could not be reconciled, and as they did not pay heed to his exhortation, the Buddha retired to the forest. At the end of the Vasa, their dispute settled, the monks came to Savatthi and begged pardon of the Buddha. 11th year, village of Ikanala, in the Magadha country. It was here that the Buddha met the Brahmin farmer Kasabharadvaha, who spoke to the Buddha somewhat discourteously. The Buddha, however, answered his questions with his characteristic sobriety. Bharadvaha became an ardent follower of the Buddha. It was on this occasion that the very interesting discourse, Kasabharadvaha Sutta, Sutta Nipata, was delivered. Read the Book of Protection by this author. 12th year, Varanja. The introduction of the Vinaya is attributed to the 12th year. It was also during this retreat that the Brahmin Varanja came to see the Buddha, asked a series of questions on Buddhist practices, and being satisfied with the answers, became a follower of the Blessed One. He invited the Master and the Sangha to spend the rainy season, Vasa, at his village Varanja. At that time there was a famine. The Buddha and his disciples had to be satisfied with very coarse food supplied by horse merchants. As it was the custom of the Buddha to take leave of the inviter before setting out on his journeying, he saw the Brahmin at the end of the Vasa. The latter admitted that though he had invited the Buddha and his disciples to spend the retreat at Varanja, he had failed in his duties towards them during the entire season owing to his being taxed with household duties. However, the next day he offered food and gifts of robes to the Buddha and the Sangha. 13th year, Kaliyarak, near the city of Kalika. During this time the elder Meghaya was his personal attendant. The elder, being attracted by a beautiful mango grove near a river, asked the Buddha for permission to go there for meditation. Though the Buddha asked him to wait till another monk came, he repeated the request. The Buddha granted him permission. The elder went, but to his great surprise he was oppressed by thoughts of sense pleasures, ill will, and harm, and returned disappointed. Thereupon the Buddha said, Meghaya, for the deliverance of the mind of the immature, 5 things are conducive to their maturing. 1. A good friend. 2. Virtuous behavior guided by the essential precepts for training. 3. Good counsel tending to dispassion, calm, cessation, enlightenment and nibbana. 4. The effort to abandon evil thoughts, and 5. Acquiring of wisdom that discerns the rise and fall of things. And 3:1. 14th year, Jetavana Monastery, Savatthi. During this time the Venerable Rahula, who was still a novice, Samanera, received higher ordination, Upasampada. According to the Vinaya, higher ordination is not conferred before the age of 20, Ven. Rahula had then reached that age. 15th year, Kapilavatthu, the birthplace of Prince Siddhartha. It was in this year that the death occurred of King Suppabuddha, the father of Yasodhara. 16th year, city of Alavi. During this year Alavaka, the demon who devoured human flesh, was tamed by the Buddha. He became a follower of the Buddha. For Alavaka's questions and the Master's answers, read the Alavaka Sutta, in the Sutta Nipata. See the Book of Protection, by this author. 17th year, Rajagaha, at Valuvana Monastery. During this time a well-known courtesan, Sirima, sister of Jivaka the physician, died. The Buddha attended the funeral, and asked the king to inform the people to buy the dead body, the body that attracted so many when she was alive. No one cared to have it even without paying a price. On that occasion, addressing the crowd, the Buddha said in verse, Behold this painted image, a body full of wounds, heaped up, with bones, diseased. The object of thought of many, in which there is neither permanence nor stability. Dhammapada, 147. 18th year, Kaliyarak. During this time a young weaver's daughter met the Buddha and listened to his discourse on mindfulness of death, Marananyasati. On another occasion she answered correctly all the 4 questions put to her by the Master, because she often pondered over the words of the Buddha. Her answers were philosophical, and the congregations who had not given a thought to the Buddha word, could not grasp the meaning of her answers. The Buddha, however, praised her and addressed them in verse thus. Blind is this world. Few here clearly see. Like a bird that escapes from the net. Only a few go to a good state of existence. Dhammapada, 174. She heard the Dhamma and attained the first stage of sanctity, Sotappatti. But unfortunately she died an untimely death. For a detailed account of this interesting story, and the questions and answers, see the commentary on the Dhammapada, Volume 3, p.170, or Burlingame, Buddhist Legends, Part 3, p.14. 19th year, Kalyarak. 20th year, Rajagaha, at Valuvana Monastery. From the 21st year till the 43rd year, Savatya. Of these 24 vasas, 18 were spent at Jetavana Monastery, the rest at Pubarama. Anathapindika and Visakha were the chief supporters. 44th year, Bilava, a small village, probably situated near Vaisali, where the Buddha suppressed, by force of will, a grave illness. In the 45th year of his enlightenment, the Buddha passed away at Kusinara in the month of May, Visakha, before the commencement of the rains. During the first 20 years of the Buddha's life, the bhikkhus Nagasamala, Najita, Upavana, Sunakata, Sagata, Radha, and Meghaya, and the novice, Samanara, Kunda attended upon him, though not regularly. However, after the 20th year, the Buddha wished to have a regular attendant. Thereon all the great 80 arahats, like Sariputta and Moggallana, expressed their willingness to attend upon their master. But this did not meet with his approval. Perhaps the Buddha thought that these arahats could be of greater service to humanity. Then the elders requested Ananda Thera, who had kept silent all this while, to beg of the master to be his attendant. Ananda Thera's answer is interesting. He said, "If the master is willing to have me as his attendant, he will speak." Then the Buddha said, "Ananda, let not others persuade you. You on your own may attend upon me." Buddhahood and arahatship. Perfect enlightenment, the discovery and realization of the Four Noble Truths, Buddhahood, is not the prerogative of a single being chosen by divine providence. Nor is it a unique and unrepeatable event in human history. It is an achievement open to anyone who earnestly strives for perfect purity and wisdom, and with inflexible will cultivates the paramai, the perfections which are the requisites of Buddhahood, and the Noble Eightfold Path. There have been Buddhas in the dim past and there will be Buddhas in the future when necessity arises and conditions are favorable. But we need not think of that distant future. Now, in our present days, the doors to the deathless are still wide open. Those who enter through them, reaching perfect sanctity or arahatship, the final liberation from suffering, nibbana, have been solemnly declared by the Buddha to be his equals as far as the emancipation from defilements and ultimate deliverance is concerned. Victors like me are they, indeed. They who have won defilements end N32. The Buddha, however, also made clear to his disciples the difference between a fully enlightened one and the arahats N33, the accomplished saints. The Tathagata, O disciples, while being an arahat, is fully enlightened. It is he who proclaims a path not proclaimed before, he is the knower of a path, who understands a path, who is skilled in a path. And now his disciples are wayfarers who follow in his footsteps. That, disciples, is the distinction, the specific feature which distinguishes the Tathagata, who being an arahat, is fully enlightened, from the disciple who is freed by insight. N34. Salient features of the Dhamma. There are no dark corners of ignorance, no cobwebs of mystery, no smoky chambers of secrecy. There are no secret doctrines, no hidden dogmas in the teaching of the Buddha, which is open as daylight and as clear as crystal. The doctrine and discipline proclaimed by the Buddha shine when open and not when covered, even as the sun and moon shine when open and not when covered. A.I. 283. The Master disapproved of those who profess to have secret doctrines, saying, "Secrecy is the hallmark of false doctrines." Addressing the disciple Ananda, the Master said, "I have taught the Dhamma, Ananda, without making any distinction between exoteric and esoteric doctrine. For in respect of the truths, Ananda, the Tathagata has no such thing as the closed fist of a teacher who hides some essential knowledge from the pupil. N35. A Buddha is an extreme rarity, but is no freak in human history. He would not preserve his supreme knowledge for himself alone. Such an idea would be completely ridiculous and abhorrent from the Buddhist point of view, and to the Buddha such a wish is utterly inconceivable. Driven by universal love and compassion, the Buddha expounded his teaching without keeping back anything that was essential for man's deliverance from the shackles of samsara, repeated wandering. The Buddha's teaching from beginning to end is open to all those who have eyes to see and a mind to understand. Buddhism was never forced upon anyone at the point of the gun or the bayonet. Conversion by compulsion was unknown among Buddhists and repugnant to the Buddha. Of the Buddha's creed of compassion, H. Fielding Hall writes in The Soul of a People. There can never be a war of Buddhism. No ravished country has ever borne witness to the prowess of the followers of the Buddha. No murdered men have poured out their blood on their hearthstones, killed in his name. No ruined women have cursed his name to high heaven. He and his faith are clean of the stain of blood. He was the preacher of the great peace, of love, of charity, of compassion, and so clear is his teaching that it can never be misunderstood. When communicating the Dhamma to his disciples, the Master made no distinctions whatsoever among them. For there were no specially chosen favorite disciples. Among his disciples, all those who were arahats, who were passion-free and had shed the fetters binding to renewed existence, had equally perfected themselves in purity. But there were some outstanding ones who were skilled in different branches of knowledge and practice. And because of their mental endowments, they gained positions of distinction. But special favors were never granted to anyone by the Master. Upali, for instance, who came from a barber's family, was made the chief in matters of discipline, vinaya, in preference to many arahats who belonged to the class of the nobles and warriors, kshatriya. Sariputta and Moggallana, Brahmins by birth, because of their long-standing aspirations in former lives, became the chief disciples of the Buddha. The former excelled in wisdom, panna, and the latter in supernormal powers, iddhi. The Buddha never wished to extract from his disciples blind and submissive faith in him or his teachings. He always insisted on discriminative examination and intelligent inquiry. In no uncertain terms he urged critical investigation when he addressed the inquiring Kalamas in a discourse that has been rightly called the first charter of free thought. Come, Kalamas. Do not go by oral tradition, by lineage of teaching, by hearsay, by a collection of scriptures, by logical reasoning, by inferential reasoning, by reflection on reasons, by the acceptance of a view after pondering it, by the seeming competence of a speaker, or because you think. The ascetic is our teacher. But when you know for yourselves, these things are unwholesome, these things are blamable, these things are censured by the wise, these things, if undertaken and practiced, lead to harm and suffering, then you should abandon them. And when you know for yourselves, these things are wholesome, these things are blameless, these things are praised by the wise, these things, if undertaken and practiced, lead to welfare and happiness, then you should engage in them. To take anything on trust is not in the spirit of Buddhism, so we find this dialogue between the Master and the disciples. If now, knowing this and preserving this, would you say, we honor our Master and through respect for him we respect what he teaches? No, Lord. That which you affirm, O disciples, is it not only that which you yourselves have recognized, seen, and grasped? Yes, Lord. N. 36. The Buddha faced facts and refused to acknowledge or yield to anything that did not accord with truth. He does not want us to recognize anything indiscriminately and without reason. He wants us to comprehend things as they really are, to put forth the necessary effort and work out our own deliverance with mindfulness. You should make the effort. The Tathagatas point out the way. N. 37. Bestir yourselves, rise up, and yield your hearts unto the Buddha's teaching. Shake off the armies of the king of death, as does the elephant a reed-thatched shed. N. 38. The Buddha, for the first time in the world's history, taught that deliverance should be sought independent of a savior, be he human or divine. The idea that another raises a man from lower to higher levels of life, and ultimately rescues him, tends to make man indolent and weak, supine, and foolish. This kind of belief degrades a man and smothers every spark of dignity from his moral being. The enlightened one exhorts his followers to acquire self-reliance. Others may lend us a helping hand indirectly. But deliverance from suffering must be wrought out and fashioned by each one for himself upon the anvil of his own actions. True purification. In the understanding of things, neither belief nor fear plays any role in Buddhist thought. The truth of the Dhamma can be grasped only through insight, never through blind faith, or through fear of some known or unknown being. Not only did the Buddha discourage blind belief and fear of an omnipotent God as unsuitable approaches for understanding the truth, but he also denounced adherence to unprofitable rites and rituals, because the mere abandoning of outward things, such as fasting, bathing in rivers, animal sacrifice, and similar acts, does not tend to purify a man or make a man holy and noble. We find this dialogue between the Buddha and the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja. Once the Buddha, addressing the monks, explained in detail how a seeker of deliverance should train himself, and further added that a person whose mind is free from taints, whose life of purity is perfected, and the task done, could be called one who bathes inwardly. Then Bharadvaja, seated near the Buddha, heard these words and asked him, "Does the Venerable Gautama go to bathe in the river Bhahuka?" Brahmin, what good is the river Bhahuka? What can the river Bhahuka do? Indeed, Venerable Gautama, the river Bhahuka is believed by many to be holy. Many people have their evil deeds, papa, washed away in the river Bhahuka. Then the Buddha made him understand that bathing in rivers would not cleanse a man of his dirt of evil, and instructed him thus: "Bathe just here, in this doctrine and discipline, Dhammavinya, Brahmin, give security to all beings. If you do not speak falsehood, or kill or steal, if you are confident, and are not mean, what does it avail you to go to Gaya?" The name of a river in India during the time of the Buddha? Your well at home is also a Gaya S.III. 9. Caste problem. Caste, which was a matter of vital importance to the Brahmins of India, was one of utter indifference to the Buddha, who strongly condemned the debasing caste system. In his order of monks all castes unite as do the rivers in the sea. They lose their former names, castes, and clans, and become known as members of one community, the Sangha. Speaking of the equal recognition of all members of the Sangha, the Buddha says, "Just as, O monks, the great rivers Ganga, Yamuna, Asiravati, Sarabhu, and Mahâ, on reaching the ocean, lose their earlier name and identity and come to be reckoned as the great ocean. Similarly, O monks, people of the four castes, Vanas, who leave the household and become homeless recluses under the doctrine and discipline declared by the Tathagata, lose their previous names and identities and are reckoned as recluses who are sons of Sakya." Udana 55. The Buddhist position regarding racism and racial discrimination made explicit at such an early age is one reflected in the moral and scientific standpoint adopted by UNESCO in the present century. Declaration on Race and Racial Prejudice, UNESCO 1978. N40. To Sundarika Bharadvaja, the Brahmin who inquired about his lineage, the Buddha answered, "No Brahmin I, no prince, no farmer, or aught else. All worldly ranks I know, but knowing go my way. As simply nobody. Homeless, in pilgrim garb. With shaven crown, I go. My way alone, serene. To ask my birth is vain." N41. On one occasion a caste-ridden Brahmin insulted the Buddha saying, "Stop, thou shaveling! Stop, thou outcast!" The master, without any feeling of indignation, gently replied, "Birth makes not a man an outcast. Birth makes not a man a Brahmin. Action makes a man an outcast. Action makes a man a Brahmin." Sutta 142. He then delivered a whole sermon, the Vaisala Sutta, explaining to the Brahmin in detail the characteristics of one who is really an outcast, Vaisala. Convinced, the haughty Brahmin took refuge in the Buddha. See the Book of Protection. The Buddha freely admitted into the order people from all castes and classes when he knew that they were fit to live the holy life. And some of them later distinguished themselves in the order. The Buddha was the only contemporary teacher who endeavored to blend in mutual tolerance and concord those who hitherto had been rent asunder by differences of caste and class. Upaka, who was the chief authority on the Vinaya, the disciplinary rules of the order, was a barber, regarded as one of the basest occupations of the lower classes. Sunita, who later won arahatship, was a scavenger, another base occupation. In the order of nuns were Punna and Punika, both slave girls. According to Mrs. C.A.F. Rhys Davids, 8.5% of the number of those nuns who were able to realize the fruits of their training were drawn from the despised castes, which were mostly illiterate. N42. Chief disciples. Rajagaha, the capital of the kingdom of Magadha, was one of the first places visited by the Buddha soon after his enlightenment. As a wandering ascetic in the early days of his renunciation, he had promised King Seniya Bimbisara that he would visit Rajagaha when he achieved the object of his search. King Bimbisara was overjoyed at the sight of the Buddha, and having listened to his teaching, became a lay follower. His devotion to the Buddha became so ardent that within a few days he offered him his pleasure park, Viluvana, for residence. Rajagaha during that time was a center of great learning where many schools of philosophy flourished. One such school of thought had as its head Sanjaya. And among his retinue of 250 followers were Upaka and Kalita, who were later to become Sariputta and Mahâ, the two chief disciples of the Buddha. One day when Upaka was walking through the streets of Rajagaha, he was greatly struck by the serene countenance and the quiet, dignified deportment of one of the first disciples of the Buddha, the arahat, who was on his alms round. All the strenuous endeavors to achieve perfection that Upaka had made through many a birth were now on the verge of being rewarded. Without going back to his teacher, he followed the arahat to his resting place, eager to know whom he followed and what teaching he had accepted. "Friend," said Upaka, "serene is your countenance, clear and radiant is your glance. Who persuaded you to renounce the world? Who is your teacher? What Dhamma, teaching, do you follow?" The Venerable Sage, rather reluctant to speak much, humbly said, "I cannot expound the doctrine and discipline at length, but I can tell you the meaning briefly." Upaka's reply is interesting. "Well, friend, tell little or much. What I want is just the meaning. Why speak many words?" Then the arahat uttered a single verse which embraces the Buddha's entire doctrine of causality. Yadamahitupabhava. Tisamhidam tathagato aha. Tisam ca yonaraho. Ivam vadi maha samano. Whatever from a cause proceeds, thereof. The Tathagata has explained the cause. Its cessation too he has explained. This is the teaching of the Supreme Sage. Vinyamahaviga. Upaka instantly grasped the meaning and attained the first stage of realization, comprehending whatever is of the nature of arising, all that is of the nature of ceasing. Yamkinsi samadayadhamam subbum tam naradhamam. With a heart full of joy, he quickly went back to his friend Kalita and told him of his meeting with the arahat and of the teaching he had received. Kalita, too, like Upaka, instantly gained the first stage of realization, having heard the Dhamma from his friend. Thereon both of them approached Sanjaya and asked him to follow the Buddha. But afraid of losing his reputation as a religious teacher, he refused to do so. Upaka and Kalita then left Sanjaya much against his protestations for the Viluvana monastery and expressed their wish to become followers of the Buddha. The Buddha gladly welcomed them saying, "Come, monks, well proclaimed is the Dhamma. Live the holy life for the complete ending of suffering." He admitted them into the order. They attained deliverance and became the two chief disciples. Another great one who joined the order during the Buddha's stay at Viluvana was the Brahmin sage Mahâ, who had renounced great wealth to find the way to deliverance. It was the Venerable Mahâ, 3 months after the Buddha's passing away, Parinibbâa, who called up the convocation of arahats. The first council, at the Satapani cave near Rajagaha under the patronage of King Ajatasattu, to collect and codify the Dhamma and Vinaya. The Order of Nuns. In the early days of the order, only men were admitted to the Sangha since the Buddha was reluctant to admit women. But there were many devout women among the lay followers who had a keen desire for a life of renunciation as nuns. Urged by their keenness, Pajapati Gautami, the foster mother of the Buddha, in the company of many ladies of rank, approached the Buddha, beseeching him to grant them ordination. But the Buddha still hesitated to accept them. Seeing their discomfiture, and urged by their zeal, the Venerable Ananda took up their cause and pleaded with the Buddha on their behalf. The Buddha finally yielded to this appeal, placing, however, 8 cardinal rules on the ordination of women. Thus was established, in the 5th year after his enlightenment, the order of nuns, the Bhikkhuni Sasana, for the first time in history. For never before this had there been an order where women could lead a celibate life of renunciation. Women from all walks of life joined the order. Foremost in the order stood the Theras Khema and Upalavana. The lives of quite a number of these noble nuns, their strenuous endeavors to win the goal of freedom, and their paeans of joy at deliverance of mind, are graphically described in the Therigatha, the Psalms of the Sisters. N.4.3. At Kapilavatthu. While at Rajagaha, the Blessed One heard that his father wished to see him, and he set out for Kapilavatthu. He did not, however, go straight to the palace, but, according to custom, stopped in a grove outside the town. The next day the Buddha, with his bowl, went for his alms from house to house in the streets of Kapilavatthu. King Suddhodana, startled at the news, rushed to the Buddha and said, "Why, Master, why do you put us to shame? Why do you go begging for your food? Not one of our race has ever done so." Replied the Buddha, "You and your family may claim descent from kings. My descent is from the Buddhas of old, and they, begging their food, always lived on alms." Then explaining the Dhamma, the Master said, "Be alert, be mindful, lead a righteous life. The righteous live happily both in this world and the next." And so the king became established in the path, he realized the Dhamma. The Buddha was then conducted into the palace where all came to pay their respects to him. But not Princess Yasodhara. The Buddha went to her, and the princess, knowing the impassable gulf between them, fell on the ground at his feet and saluted him. Then relating the Kandakanara Jataka, a story of his previous birth and for revealing how great her virtue had been in that former life, he made her an adherent to the doctrine. Later, when the Buddha was induced to establish an order for women, Yasodhara became one of the first nuns and attained arahatship, highest sanctity. When the Buddha was in the palace, Princess Yasodhara arrayed her son Rahula in all his best attire and sent him to the Blessed One, saying, "That is your father, Rahula, go and ask for your inheritance." Prince Rahula went to the Buddha, stood before him, and said, "Pleasant indeed is your shadow, sage." And when the Blessed One had finished his meal and left the palace, Prince Rahula followed him saying, "Give me my inheritance, sage, give me my inheritance." At that the Blessed One spoke to the Venerable Sariputta, "Well then, Sariputta, take him into the order." Then the Venerable Sariputta gave Prince Rahula the ordination. N45. In the Majjhima Nikaya, one of the 5 original collections in Pali containing the Buddha's discourses, there are 3 discourses, NOS 61, 62, 100, and 47, entitled Rahulaveda or Exhortations to Rahula, delivered by the Blessed One to teach the Dhamma to little Rahula. The discourses are entirely devoted to advice on discipline and meditation. Here is an extract from the Master's exhortation in the Mahâ Rahulaveda Sutta N46. Cultivate the meditation on loving kindness, metta, Rahula, for by cultivating loving kindness, ill will is banished. Cultivate the meditation on compassion, karuna, Rahula, for by cultivating compassion, cruelty is banished. Cultivate the meditation on appreciative joy, mudita, Rahula, for by cultivating appreciative joy, aversion is banished. Cultivate the meditation on equanimity, Upaka, Rahula, for by cultivating equanimity, hatred is banished. Cultivate the meditation on impurity, Ashubha, Rahula, for by meditating on impurity, lust is banished. Cultivate the meditation on the concept of impermanence, Anaksasana, Rahula, for by meditating on the concept of impermanence, pride of self, Asmimana, is banished. Cultivate the meditation on mindfulness of in and out breathing, Anapanasati, Rahula, for mindfulness of breathing. Cultivated and frequently practiced, bears much fruit and is of great advantage. Women in Buddhism. Generally speaking, during the time of the Buddha, owing to Brahminical influence, women were not given much recognition. Sometimes they were held in contempt and in servility to man. It was the Buddha who raised the status of women, and there were cases of women showing erudition in matters of philosophy. In his large-heartedness and magnanimity he always treated women with consideration and civility, and pointed out to them, too, the path to peace, purity, and sanctity. Said the Blessed One, a mother is the friend at one's home. A wife is the highest friend of the husband. The Buddha did not reject the invitation for a meal, though Ambapali N47 was of bad repute. Whatever food she offered he accepted, and in return, gave her the Dhammadana, the gift of truth. She was immediately convinced by the teaching, and leaving aside her frivolous lay life, she entered the order of nuns. Ardent and strenuous in her religious practices, she then became an arahat. Kisagattama was another woman to whom the Buddha gave the assistance of his great compassion. Her story is one of the most touching tales recorded in our books. Many more are the instances where the Buddha helped and consoled women who suffered from the vicissitudes of life. Ministering to the sick. Great indeed was the Master's compassion for the sick. On one occasion the Blessed One found an ailing monk, Piyadassi, with festering ulcers lying on his soiled bed. Immediately the Master prepared hot water, and with the help of the Venerable Ananda washed him, tenderly nursed him with his own hands, and taught the Dhamma, thus enabling him to win arahatship before he died. On another occasion, too, the Master tended a sick monk and admonished his disciples thus: "Whosoever, monks, would follow my admonition, would wait upon me, would honor me, he should wait upon the sick." N48. When the arahatissa passed away, the funeral rites were duly performed and the Buddha caused the relics to be enshrined in a stupa. N49. The Buddha's metta or loving kindness was all-pervading and immeasurable. His earnest exhortation to his disciples was, just as with her own life, a mother shields from hurt her only child. Let all embracing thoughts for all that lives be thine. N50. Being one who always acted in constant conformity with what he preached, loving kindness and compassion always dominated his actions. While journeying from village to village, from town to town, instructing, enlightening, and gladdening the many, the Buddha saw how superstitious folk, steeped in ignorance, slaughtered animals in worship of their gods. He spoke to them of life, which all can take but none can give. Life which all creatures love and strive to keep. Wonderful, dear, and pleasant unto each, even to the meanest. N51. Thus when people who prayed to the gods for mercy were merciless, and India was blood-stained with the morbid sacrifices of innocent animals at the desecrated altars of imaginary deities, and the harmful rites and rituals of ascetics and Brahmins brought disaster and brutal agony, the Buddha, the compassionate one, pointed out the ancient path of the enlightened ones, the path of righteousness, love, and understanding. Metta or love is the best antidote for anger in oneself. It is the best medicine for those who are angry with us. Let us then extend love to all who need it with a free and boundless heart. The language of the heart, the language that comes from the heart and goes to the heart, is always simple, graceful, and full of power, equanimity and self-composure. Amid all the vicissitudes of life, gain and loss, repute and ill repute, praise and censure, pain and happiness. N5-2, the Buddha never wavered. He was firm as a solid rock. Touched by happiness or by pain, he showed neither elation nor depression. He never encouraged wrangling and animosity. Addressing the monks, he once said, "I do not quarrel with the world, monks. It is the world that quarrels with me." An exponent of the Dhamma does not quarrel with anyone in the world. N5-3. He admonished his disciples in these words: "Monks, if others were to speak ill of me or ill of the Dhamma or ill of the Sangha, the order, you should not on that account entertain thoughts of enmity and spite, and be worried. If, monks, you are angry and displeased with them, it will not only impede your mental development, but you will also fail to judge how far that speech is right or wrong. You should unravel what is untrue and make it all clear. Also, monks, if others speak highly of me, highly of the Dhamma and the Sangha, you need not on that account be elated, for that too will mar your inner development. You should acknowledge what is right and show the truth of what has been said." N5-4. There never was an occasion when the Buddha manifested unfriendliness towards anyone, even to his opponents and enemies. There were those who opposed him and his doctrine, yet the Buddha never regarded them as enemies. When others reproached him in strong terms, the Buddha neither manifested anger nor aversion nor uttered an unkind word, but said, "As an elephant in the battlefield endures the arrows shot from a bow, even so will I endure abuse and unfriendly expressions of others." N5-5. Devdatta. A striking example of this mental attitude is seen in his relation with Devdatta. Devdatta was a cousin of the Buddha who entered the order and gained supernormal powers of the mundane plane, Puthujjanayati. Later, however, he began to harbor thoughts of jealousy and ill will toward his kinsman. The Buddha, and his two chief disciples, Sariputta and Mahâ, with the ambition of becoming the leader of the Sangha, the order of monks. Devdatta wormed himself into the heart of Ajatasattu, the young prince, the son of King Bimbisara. One day when the Blessed One was addressing a gathering at the Velavana monastery, where the king, too, was present, Devdatta approached the Buddha, saluted him, and said, "Venerable Sir, you are now enfeebled with age. May the Master lead a life of solitude free from worry and care. I will direct the order." The Buddha rejected this overture, and Devdatta departed irritated and disconcerted, nursing hatred and malice toward the Blessed One. Then, with the malicious purpose of causing mischief, he went to Prince Ajatasattu, kindled in him the deadly embers of ambition, and said, "Young man, you had better kill your father and assume kingship lest you die without becoming the ruler. I shall kill the Blessed One and become the Buddha." So when Ajatasattu murdered his father and ascended the throne, Devdatta suborned rough Ians to murder the Buddha. But failing in that endeavor, he himself hurled down a rock as the Buddha was climbing up Gijhakuta hill in Rajagaha. The rock tumbled down, broke in two, and a splinter slightly wounded the Buddha. Later Devdatta made an intoxicated elephant charge at the Buddha, but the animal prostrated himself at the Master's feet, overpowered by his loving kindness. Devdatta now proceeded to cause a schism in the Sangha, but this discord did not last long. Having failed in all his intrigues, Devdatta retired, a disappointed and broken man. Soon afterwards he fell ill, and on his sick bed, repenting his follies, he desired to see the Buddha. But that was not to be, for he died on the litter while being carried to the Blessed One. Before his death, however, he uttered repentance and sought refuge in the Buddha. N5-6. The Last Days. The Mahâ Parinibbâna Sutta, N5-7. The Discourse on the Passing Away of the Blessed One. Records in moving detail all the events that occurred during the last months and days of the Buddha's life. The Blessed One had now reached the ripe age of 80. His two chief disciples, Sariputta and Mahâ, had passed away 3 months earlier. Pajapati Gautama, Yasodhara, and Rahula were also no more. The Buddha was now at Vaisali, and the rainy season having come, he went together with a great company of monks to Bilava to spend the rains there. There a severe sickness fell upon him, causing him much pain and agony, but the Blessed One, mindful and self-possessed, bore it patiently. He was on the verge of death, but he felt he should not pass away without taking leave of the order. So with a great effort of will he suppressed that illness and kept his hold on life. His sickness gradually abated, and when quite recovered he called the Venerable Ananda, his personal attendant, and addressing him said, "Ananda, I am now grown old and full of years, my journey is drawing to a close. I have reached my sum of days, I am turning 80 years of age. And just as a worn-out cart, Ananda, can only with much additional care be made to move along, so the body of the Tathagata can only be kept going with much infusion of willpower. It is only when the Tathagata, ceasing to attend to any outward thing and to experience any worldly sensation, attains to the signless, animitta, concentration of mind, and dwells in it, it is only then that the body of the Tathagata is at ease. Therefore, Ananda, be islands unto yourselves. Be your own refuge. Have recourse to none else for refuge. Hold fast to the Dhamma as an island. Hold fast to the Dhamma as a refuge. Resort to no other refuge. Whosoever, Ananda, either now or after I am gone, shall be islands unto themselves, refuges unto themselves, shall seek no external refuge, it is they. Ananda, among my disciples who shall reach the very topmost height? But they must be keen to progress. From Bilava the Buddha journeyed to the Mahâvana, and there calling up an assembly of all the monks residing in the neighborhood of Vesali, addressed them saying, "Disciples, the Dhamma realized by me, I have made known to you. Make yourselves masters of the Dhamma, practice it, meditate upon it, and spread it abroad, out of pity for the world, for the good and the gain and welfare of gods and men." The Buddha concluded his exhortation by saying, "My age is now full ripe, my life draws to its close. I leave you, I depart, relying on myself alone. Be earnest then, O disciples, holy, full of thought. Be steadfast in resolve. Keep watch o'er your own hearts. Who wearies not but holds fast to this truth and law, shall cross the sea of life, shall make an end of grief." Worn out with sickness, with feeble limbs, the Blessed One now journeyed on with much difficulty, followed by the Venerable Ananda and a great company of monks. Even in this last, long, wearisome journey of his, the Buddha never failed in his attention to others. He instructed Kunda, the smith, who offered him his last meal. Then on the way, he stopped for Pukyusa, a disciple of Ariya-pariyesana, replied to all his questions. And so instructed him that Pukyusa offered himself as a follower of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Blessed One now reached the Sala Grove of the Mallas at Kusinara, the journey's end. Knowing that here would be his last resting place, he told the Venerable Ananda, "I am weary, Ananda, and would lie down. Spread over for me the couch with its head to the north between the twin sala trees." He then lay down on his right side, composed and mindful, with one leg resting on the other. Speaking now to the Venerable Ananda, the Blessed One said, "They who fulfill the greater and lesser duties, they who are correct in life, walking according to the precepts, it is they who rightly honor, reverence, and venerate the Tathagata, the Perfect One, with the worthiest homage. Therefore, Ananda, be steady in the fulfillment of the greater and the lesser duties, and be correct in life, walking according to the precepts. Thus, Ananda, should you train yourselves." The last convert. At that time, a wandering ascetic named Subhada, who was at Kusinara, heard the news of the Blessed One's approaching death. And in order to clear up certain doubts that troubled his mind, he hurried to the Sala Grove to speak to the Buddha. The Venerable Ananda, however, did not wish the Buddha to be disturbed in his last moments, and though Subhada made several appeals, access to the Master was refused. The Blessed One overheard the conversation. He knew at once that Subhada was making his investigations with a genuine desire for knowledge. And knowing that Subhada was capable of quickly grasping the answers, he desired that Subhada be allowed to see him. Subhada's uncertainty was whether the leaders of the other schools of thought such as Parinibbâa, Nyanaponika, and others had attained a true understanding. The Blessed One then spoke. In whatsoever doctrine and discipline, Dhammavinyā, Subhada, the Noble Eightfold Path is not found. Neither in it is there found a man of true saintliness of the first, or of the second, or of the third, or of the fourth degree. And in whatsoever doctrine and discipline, Subhada, the Noble Eightfold Path is found. In it is found the man of true saintliness of the first, and the second, and the third, and the fourth degree. N58 Now, in this doctrine and discipline, Subhada, is found the Noble Eightfold Path, and in it too are found the men of true saintliness of all the 4 degrees. Void are the systems of other teachers, void of true saints. And in this one, Subhada, may the brethren live the life that is right, so that the world be not bereft of arahats. Hearing the words of the Blessed One, Subhada gained confidence, and took refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Furthermore, he desired to be admitted into the order, and the Buddha requested the Venerable Ananda to receive him. Subhada thus became the last convert and the last disciple of the Blessed One, and before long by his strenuous effort he attained the final stage of arahatship. The last scene. Now the Blessed One, addressing the Venerable Ananda, said, I have taught the Dhamma, Ananda, without making any distinction between exoteric and esoteric doctrine, for in respect of the truth, Ananda, the Tathagata has no such thing as the closed fist of a teacher who hides some essential knowledge from the pupil. It may be, Ananda, that in some of you the thought may arise, the word of the Master is ended. We have no teacher any more. But it is not thus, Ananda, that you should think. The doctrine and the discipline which I have set forth and laid down for you, let them, after I am gone, be your teacher. It may be, monks, that there may be doubts in the minds of some brethren as to the Buddha, or the Dhamma, or the Sangha, or the path, Magga, or method, Patipada. Inquire, monks, freely. Do not have to reproach yourselves afterwards with the thought. Our teacher was face to face with us, and we could not bring ourselves to inquire of the Exalted One when we were face to face with him. When the Buddha had thus spoken, the monks were silent. A second and a third time the Blessed One repeated these words to the monks, and yet the monks were silent. And the Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, How wonderful a thing is it, Lord, how marvelous! Truly, I believe that in this whole assembly of the monks there is not one who has any doubt or misgivings as to the Buddha or the Dhamma or the Sangha, or the path or the method. The Blessed One confirmed the words of the Venerable Ananda, adding that in the whole assembly even the most backward one was assured of final deliverance. And after a short while the Master made his final exhortation to those who wished to follow his teaching now and in the future. Behold now, O monks, I exhort you, impermanent are all compounded things. Work out your deliverance with mindfulness, Vayadhama Samkara, Apamadana Sampadetha. N59. These were the last words of the Buddha. Then the Master entered into those 9 successive stages of meditative absorption, jhana, which are of increasing sublimity. First the 4 fine material absorptions, rupajhana, then the 4 immaterial absorptions, arupajhana. And finally the state where perceptions and sensations entirely cease, sanavadayatmanara. Then he returned through all these stages to the first fine material absorption and rose again to the 4th one. Immediately after having re-entered the stage, which has been described as having purity of mindfulness due to equanimity, the Buddha passed away, Parinibbâa. He realized nibbana that is free from any substratum of further becoming, Parinibbâna. N60. In the Mahâ Parinibbâna Sutta are recorded, in moving detail, all the events that occurred during the last months and days of the Master's life. In the annals of history, no man is recorded as having so consecrated himself to the welfare of all beings, irrespective of caste, class, creed, or sex, as the Supreme Buddha. From the hour of his enlightenment to the end of his life, He strove tirelessly and unostentatiously to elevate humanity regardless of the fatigue involved and oblivious to the many obstacles and handicaps that hampered his way. He never relaxed in his exertion for the common will and was never subjected to moral or spiritual fatigue. Though physically he was not always fit, mentally he was ever vigilant and energetic. Therefore it is said, "Ah, wonderful is the conqueror, who untiring strives for the blessings of all beings, for the comfort of all lives." Though 25 centuries have gone since the passing away of the Buddha, his message of love and wisdom still exists in its purity, decisively influencing the destinies of humanity. Forests of flowers are daily offered at his shrines and countless millions of lips daily repeat the formula, Buddham Saranam Gacchami, I take refuge in the Buddha. His greatness yet glows today like a sun that blots out lesser lights, and his Dhamma yet beckons the weary pilgrim to Nibbana security and peace. Notes 24 S.V 437 25 M number 22, I 140 26 S.V 588, M number 92, Ven.I 45, Dag. 828. 27 In 273 BC Emperor Asoka came on pilgrimage to this holy spot and caused a series of monuments and a commemorative pillar with the lion capital to be erected. This capital with its 4 magnificent lions upholding the Dharmakakra, the will of Dharma, now stands in the Museum of Sarnath, Benares, and is today the official crest of India. The Dharmakakra festival is still held in Sri Lanka. Jawaharlal Nehru writes, at Sarnath near Benares, I would almost see the Buddha preaching his first sermon. And some of his recorded words would come like a distant echo to me through 2,500 years. Asoka's pillars of stone with their inscriptions would speak to me in their magnificent language and tell me of a man who, though an emperor, was greater than any king or emperor. The Discovery of India, p.44. 28 The rains is the 3 months of seclusion during the rainy season, i.e. from July to October in India. 29 Ven.I 21. 30 It is interesting to note that this greatest of Indian rishis, seers, was born under a tree in a park. Attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, set in motion the will of Dhamma at the deer park under trees, and finally passed away under the twin sala trees. He spent most of his time in the open in forests and in the villages of India. The south branch of the Bodhi tree was brought to Sri Lanka by the Arhat Nunsang Amida, daughter of Asoka the Great of India, in the 3rd century BC. The oldest recorded tree in the world, it still flourishes at Anuradhapura. 31 The whole of this discourse is at A.4,354, UD.34, 37, and in brief at Dhammapada commentary, I-287. In the Elder's verse, 66, in Theragatha, it is said that Venerable Mahâ was of a Sakyan Raja's family. The Dhammapada verses, 33, 34, are as follows. The unsteady fickle mind. Hard to guard and hard to control. The wise man straightens. Even as a fletcher an arrow. Like a fish jerked out of its watery abode. And cast on land, this mind quakes. Therefore, the realm of Mara should be abandoned. 32 Ariya-pariyesana Sutta, M.No. 26, I-264. 33 The word is applied only to those who have fully destroyed the taints. In this sense the Buddha was the first arahat in the world, as he himself revealed to Upaka. 34 S.3,66. 35 Mahâ Parinibbâa Sutta, D number 16, 2,100. 36 M number 38, I-264. 37 DHP 276. 38 S.I-156. 39 Vatthûpama Sutta, M number 7. See Nyanaponika Thera, the simile of the cloth, will know 61-60 seconds. 40 PD Premasiri, the Buddhist concept of a just social and political order, Young Buddhist, Singapore. 41 SN 455, 456, Chalmer's translation, Harvard Oriental Series. 42 CGP Malalasekera and KN Jayatilleke, Buddhism and the Race Question, Will 200/201. 43 Psalms of the Early Buddhists, The Sisters, trans. By C.A.F. Rhys Davids, PTS Translation Series. 44 Jayatilleke number 485. 45 Ven.I 82 plus 83. C. Piyadassi Thera and J.F. Dixon, Ordination in Theravada Buddhism Will number 56. 46 M. number 62. For a full translation see Advice to Rahula, Will number 33. 47 C.A.F. Rhys Davids, Psalms of the Early Buddhists, The Sisters, p.120. 48 Ven.I 302. 49 To the northeast of the monastery of Jayatilleke, wrote General Alexander Cunningham in his Archaeological Report, 1862 plus 3. There was a stupa built on the spot where the Buddha had washed the hands and feet of a sick monk. The remains of the stupa still exist in a mass of solid brickwork at a distance of 550 feet from the Jayatilleke monastery. In General Cunningham's map of Savatthi, modern Sahat, the site of this stupa is marked H in the plan. Archaeological Survey of India, Simile 1871, p.341. 50 Metasutta, Sutta Nipata, 149, 149, Chalmers trans. 51 Edwin Arnold, The Light of Asia. 52 These are the Athalokadhamma, the 8 vicissitudes of life. 53 S.2,138. 54 D.I 3. 55 Dhammapada, 310. 56 Kumi. On the Dhammapada, Vol. I, p.147. 57 D number 16, translated as Last Days of the Buddha, BPS. 58 These 4 stages are, Sotappatti, stream entry, Sakadagama, once return, Anagama, non-return, and Arahata, the final stage of sainthood. Arahatship is the stage at which fetters are severed and taints rooted out. 59 The Mahâ Parinibbâa Sutta, D number 16, records in moving detail all the events that occurred during the last months and days of the Master's life. 60 The passages in quotations are taken with slight alterations from the Book of the Great Decease in Dialogues of the Buddha, Dingha Nikaya, Part 2.